Hey everyone, in this video I wanted to give a few anecdotes on the few times I've interacted with women. I can literally count on one hand the unique and in-depth interactions I've had with women throughout the years, so I apologize I didn't try and embarrass myself more in the past. I'm sure it would have made for some great content. I'm not trying to brag, but even though I've never approached a girl, I have been asked out on two separate occasions. Though both times they were joking, and I didn't realize this until after the fact. Otherwise, the experience could have been much less painful and cringeworthy. So the first time wasn't that serious. I was in middle school, maybe seventh grade. And this one time during gym class, I was sitting by myself as usual, and this girl went up to me. I forget what she said verbatim, but the response was along the lines of, "Hey, I'm interested in you. Do you want to date?" Honestly, she was kind of cute, and I recognized who she was because I had a few classes with her. I remember just staring at her for like a good 30 seconds before I finally said, "Wait, seriously? I don't know you that well, but..." And before I could finish my sentence, she started to hurriedly explain this was all some trend going around where people had to go up to others and ask them out as a dare. And the customary answer was obviously just to say no, and the conversation would have ended there. But because I was oblivious to this, mainly because I didn't have that many friends or even people to bring this up to me, so my immediate reaction to this information was to apologize, and before I could even get up to move away from her, she was already speed walking back to her group of friends looking pretty embarrassed. They were far enough away from me where I couldn't hear their exact words, but I could guess that they were probably making fun of me for having picked such a socially unaware and awkward response. I think after that I went to the corner of the gym and was just cringing at the whole experience. Though I guess it could have been worse, at least the girl took the time to describe the context of the situation, instead of becoming disgusted with me, assuming that she was serious, or walking away without explaining herself. The second time a girl asked me out wasn't even in person. This was in my first year of college, and I was trying to keep in touch with the remnants of my high school friend group. Every now and then I get a text message or call from them, which was pretty helpful to me because in the past, the only times we talk online is when we're on Discord playing games. But I couldn't bring my PC with me because I was living on campus and didn't want to move it between my house and school. Anyways, there was this one girl that wasn't really in my immediate friend group, but I knew of her because we had one class my senior year of high school, and we probably talked at least once or twice. She'd been speaking with one of my friends, and I think he knew how uncomfortable I got around women, so if they were hanging out in person, he would just put her on the phone for like a full minute or two, and we'd make awkward small talk until he got back. But anyways, I'm a couple weeks into my new school, and I get a text from her out of the blue. I mean, we had been in very minimal contact. Looking back on our message history, she had wished me happy birthday and invited me to her grad party, so I guess it wasn't completely unexpected that she messaged me. And so she opens with, "I have something very important to tell you, and it has nothing to do with our mutual friend." And I didn't know where this was going, so I was just like, "Okay, go ahead and tell me." And then she goes, "I have to be so honest. I've had a crush on you since we first met in high school, but I've been too shy to mention it until now." And this definitely factored into my response, but my freshman year of college was one of the loneliest times in my life, so this definitely increased my gullibility and complete inability to read the situation. And so I just responded with, "Wow, okay. I mean, that's a lot to process. I guess it finally makes sense as to why you've been wanting to talk with me. You were a bit timid to call me directly, so you were just using my friend to get to know me." And the more I was texting her, the more convinced I became this was a genuine confession. I was going to say more like, "Hey, maybe we can get to know each other more. Even though it's a long distance, we could make it work." But thankfully, before I could submit my whole essay to her about how ready I was to give this relationship a chance, she just texts me, "Wait." And then I start to get nervous because I'm actually starting to connect the dots. And then she hits me with the, "Please don't tell me you didn't think I was serious." And I'm shaken out of my daydream about finally making it into a relationship. To her credit, I could tell she actually felt a bit bad about it. And of course, the whole time I was doing my best to backtrack on everything I'd said to her and play it off that I knew she was trolling me the whole time. And to this day, I don't know if her decision to jokingly ask me out was her own choice or if my friend put her up to it. But at the same time, I wanted the conversation to be over as soon as possible, just so I could forget the whole interaction even occurred. My personal takeaway from these experiences is that if I ever want a girlfriend, I'm going to have to be the one to ask her out, because if it's the other way around, my expectation is just going to be that she's joking. Even though these are some pretty embarrassing experiences looking back, they could have been a lot worse, and I think that's because I didn't know these girls that well. If I'd actually spoken to them on occasion or if they had purposely led me on more, the experience could have been a lot worse. But yeah, those were the times I was the closest to ever being in a relationship. Now I'm really reaching into the depths of my past for this one, but this is the only time a woman has shown genuine interest in me. Rather, more appropriately, I should say girl, because this takes place back when I was, I want to say, 4th or 5th grade, and this was during the summer. So, to give some background information, my parents would take me and my siblings to the summer camp for maybe like 1 or 2 months of the year. And since my younger brother is closest in age to me, we'd usually go together and be put in the same groups or activities. And the days at the camp were pretty long, so we would get home back around dinner time, so early evening. And on this one occasion, my mom had some friends over. Well, specifically, my older sister was friends with this one guy from her high school, and so that made my mom want to be friends with the guy's mom. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that their whole family was over at our house this evening. And the other family has this girl around my age. So my mom says to me and my younger brother, go ahead and be good hosts and keep this girl company. And maybe for the first 15 minutes, my brother and I were making some small talk with this girl. And about my brother is that he's always been more direct about how he feels in social situations and just doesn't really care what people think. So he just completely leaves me out to dry and pretends to fall asleep on the couch downstairs. And I'm thinking to myself, shit, he just took my one excuse to get out of talking to this girl. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what we talked about since it was such a long time ago. But basically, I couldn't think of anything else to say to her, so I just asked her if she wanted to play some video games. And I go to my family's bonus room where the TV and our Xbox 360 is. And I just go, hey, do you want to try and play some games? I'm sure there's some multiplayer stuff we could find. And she just tells me that she doesn't want to play anything and she'll just watch me play. So I load up Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Revelations because that's what I was playing most of the time. And I play like maybe the first 30 or 45 minutes of each game. And the whole time she's kind of pissing me off because she keeps asking me 100 questions about the game. Like, who are you playing as? Why are you killing these guys? What is this guy doing? What's the point of this game? I mean, how am I supposed to answer this stuff as a 10-year-old? So I either ignore her or try my best to answer her questions. But after a bit, she actually becomes a bit more friendly. And I ask her, like, hey, do you want to try? But she just goes, no, it's okay. I'm actually just enjoying watching you play. So eventually I'm getting physically tired and mentally drained from having to entertain the stranger I met earlier. So I just tell her I'm exhausted and that I'm gonna go to bed. And this is the weirdest part. This whole detail is why I really remember this story at all. Is that she was incredibly insistent about wanting to tuck me into bed, even though I was around the same age as her. So I started to get pretty uncomfortable, and I'm trying to politely decline and be like, no, it's okay, you've already been so nice. But she just kept demanding. She was saying like, no, I need to do this. Let me tuck you into bed. Thankfully, I was saved by her mom saying that it was already getting late and they had to leave for the evening. And so I never saw that girl or her family ever again because apparently my sister and her older brother had a major falling out. And I know for a fact I was not attracted to this girl because I would have remembered anything about her appearance, and low-key I would have let her do whatever, but I must have had some pretty high standards back then. Looking back, I totally should have let her pamper me because nothing like that has ever happened to me in my life and never will again. I mean, that is actually the dream, just having a girlfriend that will watch you play video games or indulge in whatever special interest you have, and then spoil you throughout the day. But I guess it's no huge loss, not like I could have kept in contact with her because she went to a different school than me. Okay, so my last story I have for now, and it's not really even a story because nothing happens in it, though I wanted to bring it up because it's probably my biggest regret when it comes to women. So going back to my freshman year of college and how it was a very lonely time in my life, because I had moved states and I had the social aptitude of a 13-year-old, it didn't exactly bode well for my social life. And I'm taking this intro to painting class because usually, unless you're in a very specialized program in college, you're just taking some bullshit electives along with your core classes for the first year or so. Anyways, I go and sit down in my class, and it's very small. There's probably less than 20 people there. So I'm trying to find someone I might be interested in. I mean, just to talk to as a friend. And I didn't really notice her at first, but once I did, I just could not take my eyes off her. Let me evoke a fraction of the great beauty I was privileged to even gaze upon. She had this messy pixie cut with magenta or purplish highlights, wearing an oversized hoodie with some pop punk band that I'd never heard of, wearing these sweatpants or pajama pants with the design being a bunch of manga panels. Eyeballing it, I want to say she was maybe 5'4" or 5'5". And this was an 8 a.m. class, so she would always come in with dark eye bags, Monster Energy drink in hand, blasting some metal through her wired Apple earbuds. You might call me a coper because this was back in 2021, so everybody was required to wear a face mask to attend in person classes. So I technically could only see the top half of her face, but just the vibe and attitude she exuded made me absolutely infatuated with her. Unfortunately, I sat behind her by the time I noticed her, and people have already picked out their unspoken assigned seats. If you've been in college, you know what I'm talking about. And it's not like I could have just asked the people next to her, hey, do you mind trading places? I really want to talk to this one girl. Though even if I managed to sit next to her, she was constantly listening to music. Like the only time she took off her earbuds was to talk to the teacher. Anyways, I thought I'd gotten my lucky break, and I assume they do this in most colleges, but if you've lived on campus and you move in, the RAs or housing administration or whoever put stickers with the names of the people who live in that room on the door. And I mean, the people are obviously free to take those off whenever. Though before that happened, I realized that the girl in my art class was the same person who lived right next door to me on my floor, and I confirmed that using the class roster. So I was thinking, okay, I have a plan. I just have to catch her when she's about to return to her room or when she's heading to class, and I can strike up a conversation with her. The only issue with that is that she had very unreliable attendance, at least for the class we were both in. She'd often skip, and on the days she did come to class, she'd be arriving at least 15 to 30 minutes late. Looking back, maybe she was aware of my presence and thought it'd be awkward to walk to class at the same time, but that's probably me just being schizo. I suppose I could have just introduced myself by knocking on her door, but this was about 1 month into the semester, so I thought it would be too weird. So here I am just waiting for the perfect opportunity to introduce myself to my future wife, and to no one's surprise, the opportunity never came. Well, actually, there was this one moment where I was walking back to my dorm and noticed she was in front of me and could have guessed she was about to do the same. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if you don't talk to her now, you'll never get another chance. And I just let her go back to her room because my brain was in complete panic mode about what to say. And even if I did say something, it likely would have been some stuttering, incoherent mess. I ended up moving off campus the next semester and I never saw her in person again, not even walking around campus or in some of the buildings. And this girl was a complete ghost. Like I tried looking her up on everything, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, even if she had a LinkedIn, nothing showed up. Though on a somewhat positive note, I actually was talking to another girl in my art class, and we actually sat down and had a few conversations outside of class because I was sitting next to her. I actually was able to get her Instagram, but I never messaged her, and every conversation we had was super dry and uneventful because we didn't have a single thing in common. Also, to add insult to injury, she was a year younger than me. So she was 17 and I was 18 at the time, and later found out she's a lesbian, so it was over for me twice. So my freshman year of college was the only time I actually found interest in a girl and managed to talk to one. I was so much of a pussy the next 3 years of my life that I never found another girl that could have piqued my interest, but it's not like I would have had the courage to approach her anyway. It probably didn't help that I transferred a year later into a school where the majority of students were male, and then proceeding to go into a male-dominated major. But yeah, that's about all I have for the major stories I wanted to discuss. I was going to start this video off talking generally about my poor luck with women and why I can never connect with them, but the stories seemed long enough for this video. I mean, it's not like you guys care, I'm just talking to the void. Yeah, I'm just slowly losing my sanity in my room, and I thought the remedy would be to upload this shit to the internet.